GearNetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network. The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I believe it's a big challenge for our building to keep things in perspective and to, if we're going to get addicted to anything, let's get addicted to the process.
And with that, we welcome you to Trust the Podcast, powered by Better Live Than Dead and the Gear Radio Network. This is episode 114.
Episode 114. It's Hijinks week, people. How in the hell are all of you that are listening? I'm sorry, Ryan,
Bi-week Hijinks. We had to say that a couple times. It sounded like it actually ends up being like a tongue twister, but we didn't mess it up. So we're already stepping on the right foot to start this podcast off. I'm Ryan Wolfe at Wolfe BLTD. John, my co-host at I Am JC Money. John, before we get started, you know this, I know this, but we're going to let the people know this. You can hear us on betterlivethandead.com, gearnetwork.com, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. Make sure to hit that subscribe button as well to stay up to date on the latest podcast, not only for Better Live Than Dead, Trust the Podcast, but all of the Gear Network podcasts as well. John, bye-week extravaganza. I was going to ask you how your bye week was, but we're going to talk about the Jets in a little bit. So aside from the Jets, how was the bye week for you?
The bye week was great. It's not the New York Jets bye week. It's the Bills bye week, but it was great. Watching lots of football, watching lots of hockey, seeing a little bit of a 2-game skid for the Sabres there, for all the Sabres folks that were so jubilant in letting me know that they beat the Calgary Flames. They lost to the Seattle Kraken and who I think it was Montreal they lost to as well.
I think the Kraken, their fans still call themselves crackheads, if I'm not mistaken.
It wouldn't surprise me, but so I don't hear much from Sabres fans right now after that 2-game skid. But otherwise, well, man, how the hell are you, Ryan?
Doing good, man. It's we're getting healthier in the household, which is fantastic, and also, it's always weird to not have football, but it feels like it was pretty relaxing weekend. Didn't watch a whole lot of football, which was really nice. I ended up watching Sunday Night Football between the Dolphins and Steelers, which didn't feel like football. And same goes for the Thursday Night Football game, which all of the stats in this podcast are prior to this week. Yeah. But that Buccaneers game, Buccaneers and Ravens game was, I don't know, man. It's fun. Well, it's funny. Brandon and I dusted off Listen in the podcast, and we recorded it last night. It's actually available now on all Gear Network platforms, all podcasting platforms. It's under the list. You can either type in Listen in the podcast, it's there, or the JC Money Show. I simulcasted it on there too. But anyways, Brandon and I dusted it off, and last night while we were recording that podcast, we had the game on and we were watching, and it was funny to see, how slow it was in the first half, but then the second half kind of rebounded it. But man, just something ain't right with the Bucs in general. Like, I don't want to hear about Tom Brady and his personal life and all that stuff. And no, I think
that being the factor, there's that team is much more broken than just Tom Brady.
I actually thought about it Friday morning in the shower, which, as you know, shower thoughts are always the most purest, truest thoughts you can ever have in your mind. And
mine are when I take a shit.
Oh boy.
I think I came up with the name JC Money. True story. It was a day before my very first show. I needed a name. They were throwing me. This was in February of 2000. They needed somebody to get in there and basically be what was called a jobber, which for those non-wrestling people are one of those old time, back in the old days, like the local competitors that would just be there to get their ass kicked by the name wrestlers. So they needed something, right? And I didn't have anything but like a week or two of training beforehand. They said, no offense. You just practice your bumps, that your falls that you learn. Okay, great. But you need a name. Oh shit. Literally while I was shitting, I pulled $1 out of my pocket for my pants, because it was long before the days of taking your cell phone in there and shitting and reading and stuff. So I had I was reading a newspaper. I stuck my hand in my pocket and pulled out $1 and thought, and JC Money was born. And now 22 years later, a toilet thought is still wrestling.
I did not know that. That's amazing. That's an amazing story.
Congratulations. Trust the podcast listeners. You got to hear the origin of my wrestling gimmick.
We'll talk about Tampa Bay a little later too. I wanted to mention that before I forgot, John, but that's a great story. Thank you for sharing, because I had never known that, and I've known you for quite some time.
Yes.
Three big things brought to you by puckluck.com. Hockey's back in season. It's a lot of fun so far. Your one-stop resource for all your National Hockey League sports betting action. Puckluck provides win percentages and score projections for each and every National Hockey League game to tilt the ice in your favor. Not sure what to bet or just in a rut? Not to worry. Puckluck also provides expert picks to get the puck bouncing your way. Please note, puckluck.com, no way affiliated with the National Hockey League. It's teams with the NHLPA. Puckluck.com provides data related to gambling and cannot guarantee the success of any suggested or related wagers. Please gamble responsibly. Now, normally we talk about the Buffalo Bills in this podcast, but with it being a bye week, John, I took some creative liberties and decided to talk about the rest of the National Football League. And we're going to start off.
Not a bad deal. You know what? We could probably do the same thing that I did with Listen In and simulcast this on the BLTD feed as well and just refresh that feed to anybody that might be subscribed to that and not trust the podcast.
Not a bad idea. Look at you producing while we're producing.
Look at that. But yes, trust the podcast listeners. You're going to get a friendly taste of the BLTD podcast in full. So if you came here solely for the Buffalo Bills, well, that'll be I think the second half of the podcast. But
yes, that'll be the second half of the podcast, post-commercial break. So if you want to fast forward, don't do it.
No.
Running down the offensive stats, we're going to talk about New York Giants running back Saquon Barkley. Man, he has been unbelievable this season. 143 rushes for 726 yards and 4 touchdowns with 25 receptions for 180 yards. A very, very large reason the New York Giants are 6-1. Brian Daboll, ex-Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator, has come in and quickly cemented a new culture in the Meadowlands. Now, ESPN projects Barkley to rush for 1,763 yards, which would be a career high. Here's the kicker, though. Barkley is set to be an unrestricted free agent after this season. Now, John, is this an aberration that we're seeing from Barkley, or after only 627 combined rushing yards in the last 2 seasons combined, remember, tore his ACL in 2020, is Saquon Barkley back?
I hope so. For his personal health, and not just for the New York Giants or the NFL in general, but for his personal health. I hope he's back. I hope he is healthy and continues to be healthy and continues to produce. This is why the Giants drafted him in the first round. This is why he was selected, because he is that dude. He is that type of player. And unfortunately, with coaching changes, the downslide that the Giants were in briefly, the transition from Eli Manning into Daniel Jones, and just the multiple coaches in between, Saquon, as well as his health and probably running on the turf and all of that stuff. This is what they got him for. He's doing exactly what he was drafted to do. He's healthy. He's kicking ass. I'm hoping he stays healthy, because I'd like to see if he gets that yardage and gets himself paid and is back and is a contributor and becomes the next. Oh my God, why is his name escaping me on the freaking Titans? Derrick Henry, something like that, like the running back renaissance, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Saquon Barkley, he's a lot of fun to watch, and when he is, and I know that's painting with a very broad brush, but when he is on, it feels like he can't be stopped.
Right.
And for the New York Giants, obviously with Daniel Jones, it seems they're doing much like what the New York Jets are doing with Zach Wilson, where it's just do enough to win and we'll handle the rest. So
yes. And it's funny you mentioned Daniel Jones as well. I know I mentioned him in passing there, but I feel like there is something to what Brian Daboll brings to the New York Giants from a quarterback perspective. He knows how to use quarterbacks that have skill sets like Daniel Jones. And I'm not saying that, it's because of Josh Allen and how he helped develop Josh Allen. We all know Josh Allen's a once in a very blue moon type quarterback, but in the same, Brian Daboll was very instrumental in his development and helping Josh bridge that curve from college ball to the NFL, getting it and going. And I think he's kind of doing the same thing to a lesser extent, because I don't think Daniel Jones is of the Josh Allen mold, but in the same, he has a similar skill set that I think Daboll speaks to. And he is responding.
Well, here's the thing too. It depends how far the Giants go. Same with the New York Jets. It seems like they're both doing, as I said, the same thing with their quarterbacks, where they're not out there throwing for 300-400 yards or whatever the case may be. But it seems like, they can sit here, and obviously the Giants have to do this in real time, where the Jets have a few more years to figure it out. But the Giants in real time can sit back and determine specifically what it is that they want to do at quarterback. Because right now, Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones are free agents after the season, because Daniel Jones's 5th-year option was declined before the season, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it was.
So they may look at Daniel Jones and say, look, you got us to the playoffs, or you won 8, 9, 10, 11 games, whatever the situation may be. But do the Giants go, we can be better at quarterback? And that's and like I said, that's the same thing with the New York Jets, or any team really, is that you get to that point with the quarterback where you say, look, can we get better at this position? And what would it cost us, essentially? Because right now, Daniel Jones has thrown for 1,223 yards. It's 800 off the league lead. There's only 6 passing touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Excuse me, but rushing the ball, though, he has 343 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. So again, it looks like they're opening him up and letting him run a little more, make those decisions. Much like Josh Allen, obviously, but he is not Josh Allen. But after looking at his career and seeing that he is, how he has struggled to develop past that, really he has not thrown for more than 3,000 yards. That was his first season, 3,027 yards. And he's only thrown in his 4 seasons for more than 11 touchdowns once. He threw for 24 in his rookie season. So again, the development just hasn't been there for Danny Dimes. But that's a situation where, does Daniel Jones go the Mitch Trubisky route and go, look, I can go, it seems like with how, and I know this is kind of going on a tangent, but how Mitch Trubisky developed in Buffalo and got that second chance. I mean, he did not do great in Pittsburgh, was benched for Kenny Pickett. I almost said Kenny Trubisky, Kenny Pickett. So maybe obviously this is just, Monday morning quarterbacking, but, say Case Keenum's gone after the year and Daniel Jones is a free agent, maybe a guy like him, he goes to Buffalo to revitalize his career, spend time around a quarterback who obviously he is not, but they play the game the same way. They don't have the same traits, the same tools, the same whatever, but they play the game the same way.
They do, but here's the thing with that, is that unlike Mitch Trubisky didn't really do a whole lot to enhance his presentation when he hit the market in his last season. Daniel Jones, on the other hand, is wowing people right now, and I know that might be saying that the bar might be set a little low for him to do that, to wow people. But if he ends up having a relatively decent season, the Giants getting into the playoffs again, I think the Giants' main focus is going to be on bringing a Saquon Barkley back and giving him that money, because we know Saquon, when healthy, is that dude. We don't think that Daniel Jones is that Josh Allen, that Patrick Mahomes type here. But what I'm saying is I think that if he has a strong enough season the Giants have a good finish, there might be an Indianapolis Colts team that might actually give him a little more money and a chance to start, rather than have him go to a Buffalo Bills or a Kansas City Chiefs and sit behind an Allen or a Mahomes. And that's a good
teaser too for the podcast. And I'll tell you right now, we're looking at the stats here. Tom Brady is obviously the top free agent this offseason. At quarterback, you've got Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Jimmy Garoppolo, who will probably end up getting paid by someone. I think maybe, if we're just spitballing right now, if Garoppolo isn't re-signed in San Francisco, which I find it hard to believe, he's probably bound for Indianapolis. That would be my best guess. If not there, you have Houston as well. That I'm sure would. Yeah, but I think Houston is hot on Davis Mills. Like, they really like what they have in him. Maybe that will change, but it seems like Houston is very pleased with Davis Mills and the development that he's had over the past couple of seasons.
There's also Carolina too.
Yep. Looking down the list even further, Teddy Bridgewater, Daniel Jones, Case Keenum, Mason Rudolph, Jacoby Brissett, Geno Smith, who we'll talk about in a couple minutes here.
Yep.
And then you kind of get to the Joe Flacco, Andy Dalton, whereas Andy Dalton still has started in the league, although he's I feel like Lamar Jackson's going to be on that list too. I don't think Lamar Jackson is down the list. I just sorted by AAV this year. He's only getting paid $2.367 million this season, which
I don't think I don't know, for some reason or another, it hit me yesterday. I don't think Lamar Jackson is going to be coming back to Baltimore.
I don't think so either. I got a question for you.
Sure.
I got a question for you. Because this just popped up, and I know how much you love the Dallas Cowboys. And this is a good transition over to our next part of the thing. First off, I do want to ask you, though, because I have the number here. Saquon Barkley, 25, almost 26 years old, born February 9th, 1997. So we'll say 26 years old in free agency. Are you giving a 26-year-old Saquon Barkley the spot track market value of 4 years, $38.17 million to bring him back to New York potentially?
I think the 4 years is spot on. 38 million. I don't know about that. I'd probably try.
That's roughly about market value for him.
Yeah, I would probably, if I were faced in this situation in Madden 23, I would stick to the 4 years, but I'd probably start at 33 or 34 million. See if there's any wiggle room there to kind of save. But I think that's pretty decent market value. Worst case scenario, I don't see why that would be problematic. He's not going to be getting a 7-year deal or anything like that, which I know some running backs, especially when they hit that 25 to 26 years age mark, are hoping to still get that 5 to 7 year big running back contract, which would take him to 33, 34 ish, which is very old for a running back. But I don't see that happening just because of the injuries that he's had, particularly with the ACL one. So
moving over to
I think that's fair market value. I think that I could see them doing that, but if I were the GM, I'd shave a couple of 1,000 off of there just to see.
That seems fair. Plus, it's Joe Shane from Buffalo. He's been good. They've been good at getting good guys back cheaper. Maybe there's a hometown discount. I don't know, but looking at the NFC East, or what is now being referred to as the NFC Beast. That's a lot of people have said that, not just me.
Yeah, but and they're the NFC Beast right now. But what really is the beast of that? Like Philadelphia's schedule is among one of the easiest schedules I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, but they do have statistically a very good defense and a very good offense. We'll talk about Jalen Hurts in just a second. But you've got Philadelphia at 6-0. The Giants at 6-1, and Dallas at 5-2. Before we get to Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles, I want to ask you, because we're talking about free agents, Cooper Rush, Dallas Cowboys backup, who stepped in admirably. He's a free agent after the year, and in 5 games started, 6 games played. Scott, I mean, his completion percentage is 57.7, which is not great, but 1,020 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 picks. He's 4-1 or 5-1. In those games. So it's again, he's picked the right time to have a really good stretch run. Do you think that a team might take a shot on Cooper Rush?
I'm sure that stretch will have given him the proverbial, who is that? Why am I forgetting? Matt Flynn, the proverbial Matt Flynn like look, so to speak.
You get Matt Flynn, or you get the one guy from Cleveland who went to Houston.
Yes, exactly.
It's not. I keep popping up. It's not Trevor Siemian, because that's different. Obviously, a different guy. I'll have to look it up because I can see the guy's face. Can't remember his name. Someone's probably yelling at me right now.
Probably nobody. But
damn it! I know that name. I know the name.
I feel like with that, he played enough to get a look, and he'll probably get an opportunity somewhere. But the thing is that the Dallas Cowboys do have talent around him. They have a great offensive line. You have Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield. You have CeeDee Lamb on, at one of the wide receiver positions. I mean, they're a good, solidly built team, especially for the regular season. Not every team is built like that, though. So, he may get a look. They may bring him. Denver may bring him in. Who knows what's going to happen with Russell Wilson this season and beyond. Mr. Unlimited, but I think he'll get a look.
Like a total,
right? I think he'll get a look, but I think Cooper Rush is a bit overhyped just because of where he was playing. I don't think if he goes to a Houston or he goes to a Carolina, that is going to be much ado about anything there.
The gentleman that I was thinking about was Brock Osweiler.
Brock Osweiler. Yes. Okay.
Who, according
Denver to Cleveland, right? And then
he went
to Houston.
Yeah, he went from Houston to Cleveland, Denver to Houston, Houston to Cleveland, and then went back to Denver, and then finished up with the Dolphins. Made $41.3 million and threw 37 touchdowns in his career. Not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all.
That's why you got to get the bag, though. When it's time to get the bag, you get the bag. But
can't hate on a Brock Osweiler or a Matt Flynn or a Blake Bortles for getting what they could get with the limited skills that they had. Like, I would do the same damn thing, and so would any one of you. So
absolutely. So looking at it here, quarterback for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts is having a year so far, John. 66.8% completion, 1,514 I'll just say it this way, it might be easier. 1,514 passing yards, 6 touchdowns with 2 picks. He also has 77 rushes for 293 yards and 6 touchdowns. Now, the offense of the Philadelphia Eagles is very good, but the defense is what's much better. And I think that's what's going to end up carrying them a very long way, because even if Jalen Hurts might have an off day, which he has not really done yet this season, that defense, especially after picking up Robert Quinn from the Chicago Bears for next to literally nothing, that defense looks very, very formidable and very scary, not only in the East, but in the entire NFC as a whole.
Right. They do. And, it goes to the old adage of defense wins championships. You can have the greatest offensive line in the world. You could have the greatest offense in the world. I mean, look at the Green Bay Packers in the early days of the Mike McCarthy era. They had a great offense, or actually even after the Super Bowl era, they had just fantastic offenses, record-setting offenses, but the defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. Talk about Aaron Rodgers not having multiple chips. Well, a lot of that is the defense gave up a lot of points and lost them some key games and things like that. When you have a solid defense that can hold teams to, 7 points or less and give that offense an opportunity to score just enough to win, you're going to win football games.
Yeah. You're not wrong there. Looking around the league here, John, second of the 3 big things, the wheels on the bus, Indianapolis, man, they've fallen off. Indianapolis announces quarterback Matt Ryan will be benched for the remainder of the season, and Sam Ehlinger will start, prior to Texas University. Now, Matt Ryan does have a shoulder injury, a grade 2 shoulder separation, but they said enough's enough. You're not playing. You're done. We're going to see what this kid has.
Right.
Now, Indianapolis has been unable to find the next quarterback after Andrew Luck retired shockingly in 2018. Jacoby Brissett went 7-9. Phil Rivers 11-5. Carson Wentz 9-7, and now Matt Ryan 3-1 have all been one and done. Specifically presuming here that Matt Ryan does not start another game or will not play next season for the Colts, because it's kind of hard to come back from that. Plus, obviously, it's very painfully evident that Matt Ryan, the game has passed him by in terms of he can still make throws, but his feet are as bad as they've ever been. He's as slow as he's ever been, and it's not working out for him in the NFL in 2022. But John, when will the Indianapolis Colts realize they need to stop shopping in the clearance aisle for quarterbacks? I mean, looking right now, acquiring Matt Ryan, that guaranteed $12 million of his 2023 salary. If Indianapolis were to cut him in the offseason, they save a tick over $17 million, but would incur an $18 million cap hit per spot track. If, like I said, if he were to be cut in the offseason, is this more of a struggle, or this struggle more of an indictment on Indianapolis's general manager, Chris Ballard, or head coach Frank Reich, who has not been able to work with what he's been given?
I think it's more the GM than Frank Reich. I think Frank Reich is good in terms of quarterback development. We saw what he did with Carson Wentz when Wentz was an Eagle. And, he, being a former quarterback himself, as Bills fans would know and remember, longtime Bills fans would remember, he knows his stuff with quarterbacking. The thing is that he hasn't really necessarily had a young, like fresh out of college quarterback to mold and develop into his own vision. He's kind of been given folks at the either tail end of their careers, like Phillip Rivers and Matt Ryan, or folks that are rehabilitating that aren't really sure, like Carson Wentz. Jacoby Brissett, I mean, I think Brissett plays good enough to be okay, but he's not a game-changing quarterback. He's not someone that you're going to win playoff games in a Super Bowl with. You might not even get 7 or 8 wins with a Jacoby Brissett. I think the Andrew Luck thing really threw Indianapolis for a loop, and the GM has not really made smart moves to sustainably repair that void that Andrew Luck left.
I mean, they were smart at the time because it was kind of an outside the box type of deal. Getting Phillip Rivers, that worked out until the Bills beat them in the playoffs. If Carson Wentz and the Colts had made the playoffs, it's highly likely Carson Wentz would have been back in Indianapolis. I mean, let's just be real, because of the relationship that Wentz and Frank Reich had from their days in Philadelphia. I mean, that's just, revisionist history kind of there, but that would be my thought. But looking at it, I would agree with you. I think that the GM, it's more of an indictment of him. But then again, we also don't know the strings that Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, are pulling. We've heard rumors that he was the one that wanted Ryan out, but we don't, obviously, no confirmation, whatever.
Well, I mean, he's the boss. So if he wants whatever he wants, it's his team. He gets to, he gets to say, he could sign Tom Brady and tell Tom Brady to pound sand. And that'll be Tom Brady's job, is pounding sand.
If I think right now what's happening in Indianapolis too is it's kind of a smart move to figure out what you have in this backup quarterback, who the Colts love, mind you. They love Sam Ehlinger, again, out of Texas. I don't know why I keep saying that, but I just keep saying it. They really love what he has and what he's done in the National Football League. He's played. I saw a tweet here earlier today. I'm just looking up Sam Ehlinger stuff. 137 preseason snaps, roughly 2 full games worth. Doesn't really have a whole lot of experience in the National Football League, but again, sometimes the best way to find out what you got is to stick them in a game and see what happens. So
right, and at this point right now, where the Indianapolis Colts are, I mean, are they really going to? Obviously, you're competing, or at least you're saying you're competing, but are they competing? Like, I don't want to necessarily declare the season lost, especially when you have what did we say is the Colts record 3-3-1 right now?
Yeah,
I mean, they're not like terrible, but I mean, I suppose better now than later to find out if you have something there, because it would, if hypothetically speaking, they stuck with Ryan until they were mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, and then Ehlinger from Texas comes in week 14, 15 and just dominates. And then you have the off seasons about what if and all that stuff. This now would be the time to do that.
Well, yeah, because the playoffs are still in sight with their record of 3-3-1, but also it's kind of a shock to the system where the teams, it's essentially saying like nobody's not replaceable essentially. So I guess it might be able to work, but talking about resurgence here, Geno Smith, man, what a season he's had so far. Seattle quarterback Geno Smith,
absolutely
4-3 as a starter. They lead the NFC West. He has a career high 73.5 completion percentage, 11 touchdowns, 3 picks. With the emergence of running back Kenneth Walker III out of Michigan State, can Seattle continue their dream start? Now, Walker has 353 rushing yards combined in the last 3 games, if I did my math correct. 52 total carries, 6.8 yards per carry. That's also taking a ton of pressure off Geno Smith. They did just have DK Metcalf go down with a patella injury, but he may only be out a few weeks. So again, looking at it here, do you think that, first off, Geno Smith is back, but do you think that the Seattle Seahawks can continue this dream start to their season?
You know what? To say, is Geno Smith back? I would argue Geno Smith was never really here. And whether or not it was because of the disarray that was happening in New York after he was drafted, or just the opportunities that he never really had. I think him sitting behind Mr. Unlimited himself certainly helps his case. Pete Carroll's got these boys playing ball, and you know what? I don't think that they. It's hard to say, honestly. It's really hard to say because I want to see Geno do well, and I want to see, I love the upset stories or the Cinderella stories, and it would be great to see. But the NFC West did also just get, bolstered up, particularly in San Francisco with Christian McCaffrey. They're going to be tough. The LA Rams are going to figure it out eventually. They're going to be tough down the stretch. So I mean, I don't know if Seattle's going to, be playoff bound, but it's certainly a great story to follow.
So looking at Geno Smith right now, he has a projection on ESPN.com of 4,158 yards, which would be a career high, 27 touchdowns, which would also be a career high, and 7 interceptions, which would be a career low for a full season played, or at least 13 games, because he's never played. Only once has he played a full 16 games. That was his rookie season. Played for the Jets for 4 years, went to the Giants, was a Charger, and then has been with Seattle the last 3 seasons. So it's a great story. I agree with you, John. Maybe Pete Carroll has been able to figure something out with Geno Smith that other teams couldn't figure out. But I definitely think that that emergence of Kenneth Walker in the backfield is certainly going to help
for
the
sure.
Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, anytime you can have a running back that you can hand off to that does things, that takes pressure off of the quarterback, certainly, and helps open up that dynamic game where, is it run? Is it pass? Who knows? Is it play action? Oh, snap. You know what I mean? So anytime you can have that, it's a benefit for any team. I mean, look at the New York Jets. Now without Breece Hall, we have no idea, but with Breece Hall emerging, that really took a lot of the focus off of Zach. Is Zach Wilson going to be able to throw the ball here? Is Zach Wilson going to run here? Is Zach Wilson going to do this? He had someone to hand it to, so they had to. The teams had to completely adjust their game for a guy like Breece Hall. That's what that dude does. That's what that running back does. The New York Giants, Saquon Barkley being back, they have to adjust to the dynamic ability of Saquon Barkley, but then the legs of Daniel Jones that could be used as an alternate as well. Same thing there. You have that in the background. It's a nice weapon to have, and it can only lead to good things.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. Now, before we go to a commercial break, John, real quick, Tom Brady, his retirement tour. I mean, I think that's what's happening this year. The Buccaneers are 3-5. Again, I know they played Thursday Night Football, so we're kind of dipping 2 weeks together, but still, Buccaneers are 3-5 this season. They're struggling. They're struggling bad. They're 1-5 in their last 6 games, including a 3-game losing streak. Is this on bad coaching, bad playing, or a bit of both?
I just think it's a lot. I mean, when you look at the offense, like last year, Bruce Arians was calling the plays. And Brady had a great rapport with Bruce Arians and bought what he sold, and they did the thing, and they were producing great numbers. He doesn't have that anymore. Also, you got to consider too, the offensive line that he had last time versus this time, not really the best either. You factor in and having been through what Brady's personally going through in terms of his marriage, though not with nearly as much money, having gone through that whole process, it's taxing on anyone, especially when you're considering the personal factors of it, and also the innocent parties like his children that have to go through that too. That is a major drain and can really remove the focus from anybody. So I think it's a lot of little things that are unfortunately rearing its head for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the only reason why it's such a big deal is because of who it is at the quarterback, because it's Tom Brady, because he's beaten the hell out of, quite frankly, the entire NFL. I know the Bills fans like to think it's just them and their team that he beat the hell out of, but he beat the hell out of the entire NFL. And it's just a lot for him personally. But then you also add in the fact that he doesn't have Gronkowski, right? That was his main go-to. They had a game plan around that. He doesn't have that. Mike Evans has not been playing the way that he has been, accustomed to playing. They've been getting on him. Julio Jones has been absent for quite a few games and is just getting back off of an injury. It's rough right there. It's rough there. It's rough in Tampa Bay. Now, I do think they can turn it around right now. That division, the NFC South, believe it or not, if the Carolina Panthers win this week, they would be in first place in that division. A team
nobody wants to win that division.
A team that literally gave up on its season and sent its star player out west could be in first place.
Yeah.
After this weekend, that'll tell you, you know what, it's anybody's ball game. But also one thing I do want to bring out there and keep in mind too, because Kirk Herbstreit mentioned this last night during the game, and it really does hold true. given the new schedule, the new expanded schedule, the 18 weeks with the 1 week of preseason with the 1 week of preseason eliminated now, it's almost like the month of September and even early into October is kind of like an extended preseason, given how things have been working with the schedule as it is now. So it's very possible that this could just be a stretch where, they're getting healthier and could turn up the dial when it matters most a little later on in the season.
So my thoughts on this real quick, injuries, ineffectiveness, but I also don't know that Todd Bowles is a great head coach.
I know, absolutely
for the situation. Defensive coordinator, absolutely. Head coach, I don't think so.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, the Bucs defense now is they're not really that good.
But hey, kudos to him, because the reason the defense was so good was why he got the head coaching job, I'm going to presume, because Byron Leftwich, no slouch. He'll be an NFL head coach someday. It might shave a couple years, or it might add a couple years on after this season, depending on how the Buccaneers are. But then again, ineffectiveness and injury has really dogged that team.
Yeah, but, with Todd Bowles' first stint as an NFL head coach, he didn't really have a whole lot to work with in East Rutherford with the Jets. So I don't necessarily blame him for, that. But now you inherited a team that, regardless of what his state of mind is, it's the greatest quarterback of all time you have on your team. You do still have some of those key pieces from that championship team and from the team that, yes, they were bounced out of the playoffs last year, but they were still in the playoffs. You got to be able to do something with it. You got to be able to motivate and coach them. And I've just never seen how, Todd Bowles is a motivator. Like, even with Bill Belichick, when you talk about how monotone Bill Belichick is and how he looks, you could still see him on the sidelines getting fiery from time to time. So that there's a rapport there, and that he knows how to motivate. And Todd Bowles just looks the same every camera angle, everywhere he goes. He just seems like he just has this look like he hates being alive, so I'm curious as to what he does to motivate his people, how he motivates his folks, because what he's doing right now doesn't appear to be working very much. It almost seems to be very similar to the motivating tactics that he had in New York. So I like Todd Bowles. I really do. I don't think he's a good head coach, though, and it's beginning to show itself here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this season.
That's fair. I couldn't have said it better myself. But what I will say better myself, John, we'll be back after this quick commercial break with more Trust the Podcast here on the Gear Radio Network.
Mr. Unlimited.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And we're back here on Trust the Podcast for the third of the three big things. Also, our look ahead. We're going to talk about the Buffalo Bills just a few minutes. But first off, John, for me, the biggest surprise, also, where do we stand in the league as a whole? Because obviously, if you only listen to Trust the Podcast, which if you do, thank you. But if you don't, which I would presume that to be the case, you probably know how the rest of the NFL looks, but we at least want to bring you up to speed right now. So first off, my biggest surprise, Minnesota Vikings, 5-1, leading the NFC North. The only loss came to Philadelphia, 24-7 in week 2. Kirk Cousins, quarterback, 16th in the NFL with 1,502 passing yards. Running back Dalvin Cook, 12th in the NFL with 450 rushing yards. Wide receiver Justin Jefferson, 3rd in the league with 654 rushing yards. Their defense allowing 19.7 points per game. To me,
Justin Jefferson, that's that dude, though.
It just sounds like Minnesota is just doing enough.
They're doing enough, and
that's literally it. Because
in some
all of
cases,
the stats are middle.
You need
all of the stats except for Justin Jefferson are really middle of the pack.
Right,
but they're just doing what they have to do to win.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're also in a Division II where Green Bay's not playing up to Green Bay standards. Detroit is, arguably a solid offensive juggernaut, but a defensive juggernaut they are not. So,
let me bring this to the table, this cliche to the table here. Okay.
Sure.
They got head coach Kevin O'Connell, who brings winning ways to the table. He was a Patriot. He was a coach for the Rams. He was the offensive coordinator for the Rams. I mean, he knows how to play good football. He knows how to coach good football. And now he's 5-1 in the National Football League as a head coach. So
that's
not too bad.
Yeah, not too bad. He's doing what he's doing what he needs to do. I feel like in the ongoing gag of referencing old Trust the Podcast episodes, I do recall someone by the name of Ryan Wolfe saying, "Better to be lucky than good."
Yep, absolutely.
A number of times, and I'm thinking that might be what we have here in Minnesota. I don't. They don't strike me. They're kind of along the same lines of the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants. They don't strike me as the ones in the NFC. Well, Philadelphia might be, but they don't strike me as the ones. But it's definitely an interesting story. Certainly a surprise to those outside of Minneapolis.
And something that a one John Cimino always says on the podcast: any given Sunday.
Any given Sunday, you are correct.
Looking at the playoff picture heading into Week 8 real quick, the NFC, it's Philadelphia, the Vikings, the Seahawks, the Buccaneers, which has since changed, obviously, the Giants, the Cowboys, and the Rams. In the AFC, Buffalo, Kansas City, Tennessee, Baltimore, the Jets, Miami, and the Los Angeles former Superchargers, now just Chargers.
So in line with the playoff picture every week, I will go and verbalize my online gag, but stop the count.
Hey, if the season ended today, my man.
Yeah, right.
It's like saying Christmas
I always hated, but now that the Jets are on there, I'm like, stop the count. If the season ended today, yay! But honestly, I'm still, as far as the the AFC goes, really, honestly, as far as the NFL goes, it's Buffalo, KC, and 30 other teams. I'm not sold on any other team representing the AFC other than Buffalo and Kansas City. And one of those two teams representing the AFC in the Super Bowl, they're gonna win. I don't see any team on the level of those two teams. And look out for those doggone Chiefs, because they made a statement against the 49ers. Yeah. Last Sunday, and
they made a statement going out and getting Kadarius Toney from the Giants too.
Yep. So I'm that playoff game is going to be appointment television yet again.
Yes,
of course, en route of playing against the Jets in the AFC Championship, of course.
So, looking ahead here. I'm just gonna gloss over that one. Looking ahead here, injury news: right tackle Spencer Brown for the Buffalo Bills. He has an ankle injury. He will be out, ruled out on Friday. He'll be out this weekend. Running back Taiwan Jones limited on Thursday. On Friday, we'll see. I didn't check for some reason. I'm an idiot. Didn't check the injury report. Shocker. So Taiwan Jones limited. Jake Kumaro limited with an ankle. Cam Lewis was full this week with a forearm injury, and Mitch Morse limited with an elbow injury. So we'll see if he plays on Sunday night, which brings us, John, to our preview of Week 8, the Buffalo Bills versus the Green Bay Packers, Sunday, October 30th at 8:20 p.m. on NBC. The Green Bay Packers 3-4. It's tied for the most losses in a regular season under Matt LaFleur. They went 13-4 in 2021. Get this. Green Bay started as a 10.5-point underdog, which marks the first time in Aaron Rodgers' career that he has been a double-digit underdog. Sunday marks, his 235th start of his career, both regular season and postseason combined. The first time he's a 10.5-point underdog, double-digit. It's crazy. It's crazy to see that.
Right. It's very crazy to see an Aaron Rodgers-led squad that in that manner. But I mean, they didn't really improve on the pieces that they lost. When you lose a Devontae Adams, it's kind of hard to replace someone like that. You've got Randall Cobb, I believe he's hurt. You got these new guys. Marquez Valdez-Scantling ended up leaving last season. He's there in Kansas City now. I mean, he's got a lot of new pieces to that puzzle around there. They're trying to figure it out. They're kind of almost in the same headspace as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in terms of what the hell is going on. But it's not the coaching. I think it's more experience. And there's so few people with experience on the Green Bay Packers right now, aside from Aaron Rodgers and a couple of others that I think that's the main problem with them. I don't doubt their ability to get it and click and perhaps, make a run later in the season. I don't think it starts on Sunday though.
So now looking at this as well, quarterback Aaron Rodgers had some very interesting things to say after last week's loss. Quote, "I'm not worried about this squad. In fact, this might be the best thing for us. This week, nobody's going to give us a chance going to Buffalo on Sunday Night Football with a chance to get exposed. Shoot, this might be the best thing for us." So either he's talking about going on Sunday Night Football and getting their asses kicked, or going on Sunday Night Football and proving a point that they're not out of it. But
I'm gonna assume he means the latter. Not
at this point, he's burning all the bridges. He wants to watch the world burn. Because again, I don't know how much longer Aaron Rodgers is in Green Bay or in the NFL for that matter. But
right.
Rodgers has a 40.5 QBR, which ranks him 26th in the National Football League. Aaron Rodgers,
and yet he still leads the. I think he either leads the league or leads the NFC in touchdown passes.
Aaron Rodgers has not had a 300-plus yard game this season. That's 4 games this season, or 4 games in 2021. I'm not sure. Oh, duh. Because I, for a second, thought it was 2021. Wow. He had 4 300-yard games in 2021. He's had none this season. He's gone 11 games in a row without a 300-plus yard game. 12 games is his career high from Week 10, 2015 to Week 7, 2016. Now, looking real quick, I'm going to double-check this for you, John. Mm-hmm. The one stat that I do want to drop on you, which is a fun one that I came across. I just wanted to make sure that I got it handled here.
You got to have the stats, my man.
I got a stat for you. You better watch your language. Don't raise your voice, please. Right. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers leads the NFC with 11 touchdowns, tied with Geno Smith, a sentence I never thought would come out of my mouth.
What a freaking weird world we're in, man.
Jared Goff has 11 as well. So Aaron Rodgers, Geno Smith, and Jared Goff. Carson Wentz has 10. He's second in the NFC. So again, wild world we live in. But Jeff Kerr, at Jeff Kerr CBS, Josh Allen beat Lamar Jackson week 4. Patrick Mahomes in week 6 has an opportunity to beat Aaron Rodgers this week. Josh Allen can be the first quarterback to beat 3 former MVPs in a 4-game span since Troy Aikman beat Dan Marino, Steve Young, and Brett Favre in 1996. I'm going with a lock on that one and say Josh Allen's gonna do it. The Bills are gonna win big. I'm talking maybe 31-14 on Sunday night.
I'm going to go ahead and agree with not just you, but with, of course, the ESPN matchup predictor. And 83.3% of the people that took the survey agree that Buffalo is going to beat Green Bay. I'm going to say, though, just because I'm an Aaron Rodgers fan, I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think we're going to go Buffalo 35, Green Bay 24. I'll give them 24 just as a courtesy. But I don't think they're going to beat the Bills at all this
I can't imagine that happening, but
no. Stranger things have happened. I mean, the New York Jets are 5-2 for Christ's sakes.
Yeah.
So the stranger things have happened, but I don't think that will be a strange thing happening on Halloween Eve.
Well, John, with that being said, I'm Ryan Wolfe at Wolfe BLTD. John is at I am JC Money. I got to pee, so let's wrap this bad boy up. We are Trust the Podcast.
You're not.
John, enjoy your Friday night. Enjoy your weekend. We'll chat with everybody next weekend. As always, thanks for tuning in, and go Bills.
Mr. Unlimited. The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.